The late Mr. Wee Sin To was the driver behind Mind Science Centre and MayLab's vision to bring an immersive and visual encyclopedia to the gallery visitors. The selection of artworks will be visual languages, forming an extension of evidence-based research and non-drug approach to build emotional resilience and to promote mental well-being, bringing a fresh perspective to arts and the mind. The pandemic has affected many people and changed the way we think. It now gives us an opportunity to have an open and meaningful dialogue about mental health. And MayLab can be a safe place where people can ease into this conversation where it is not imposing and confrontational.
I've been working with individuals who have brain disorders, and I've been supporting families who are experiencing dementia and strokes. So the MayLab project is an extension of my involvement in the community arts, thinking about the impact of creativity on the brain. It's interesting because it brings together the brain science as well as the creative and imaginative arts to provide interesting engagement and participation for people who are experiencing mental health challenges, including dementia. MayLab provides an enriching space and a therapeutic environment for the community, especially those who are experiencing mental health challenges. And it brings people together to participate in projects and experiences that will enrich their lives.
Hello, my name is Audrey. I'm a volunteer with Age Well Every Day. I came to visit MayLab and I'm very impressed that there is science-based evidence that therapy programs is useful for elderly and helps prevent the onset of dementia for the elderly. The most impactful experience that I have is the sketch diary of this daughter whose father has dementia. He is continually chewing, even though there's nothing in his mouth. It shows me the harmful effects of dementia. And if we can, we must take steps today to prevent the onset of dementia.
The key role of MayLab is to encourage evidence-based research and art-based research and systematically document this for people to better understand how the arts benefits our health. And the other role of MayLab is to introduce exciting new pilot programs in the creative arts projects to the communities. We hope to bring about greater awareness to bridge the gap between arts and science to show the impact, a positive impact of arts in health.
I also wish that MayLab Centre can be a space where we truly explore the fascinating intersection between neuroscience and the creative arts. Because we know that when science meets art, this is where we can see the wonder of the human spirit.
MindGym was conceptualized based on the fundamental belief in mind training and neuroplasticity, that we believe certain qualities of mind can be trained to better serve mental health and emotional well-being. So just as how people now go to a gym to train their physical fitness, we believe this MindGym, they can come to train their mental fitness. So because of the pandemic, we've changed all the programs to online. So in the past year, we have reached out to over 500 participants with our programs, our 8-week structured program, weekly mindfulness practice session, and other talks, retreats, and workshops.
Yeah, initially I was a little skeptical of mindfulness and how this will actually work out. Describe my experience in MindGym as an eye-opening experience. So before I joined the program, as I was working, stress was a constant thing in my life. So MDCT, which has a mindfulness and a cognitive component. So in terms of cognitive, I've gained a better understanding of my stress as a result of my own thinking, and to be more aware of how my anxious thoughts influence how I feel and how I react towards things. And with mindfulness, it helped me to feel more grounded, and with constant practice, I've learned to be more aware of these anxious thoughts and not engage in them. So now I feel more empowered to cope with my daily life challenges.
Mindjing will continue the effort to promote regular and secular mindfulness practice as supported by research evidence. And at the same time, we are also exploring targeted programs to reach out to specific population groups in the coming year.
I hope everyone will realize that they can all tap into their own creative self to improve their own mental wellness and mental state. There are more discoveries to be made and more possibilities to be imagined.
Hello everyone and welcome to the 4th Tiang Seng lecture, Arts for Mental Health, in celebration of World Mental Health Day. Thank you for taking time out and being here today on a Sunday afternoon. My name is May, Assistant Director of Mind Science Center and your host today. Today's lecture is organized by the Mind Science Center and made possible by the generous donation from Mr. Tao Heng Tan and donors who supported our cause and to improve mental well-being and build resilience across all ages. The theme for this year's World Mental Health Day is Mental Health in an Unequal World, highlighting unequal access to mental health care across the world. And this has only been worsened by the COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic has significantly impacted the mental health of vulnerable groups such as the elderly, migrant workers, and those with or at risk of developing mental health conditions. However, cultivating protective factors like resilience and social support are helpful in reducing the adverse impacts on mental health. Mind Science Centers innovates mind health with biological and social science through translational research in the community to build an undefeated mind. It is the first in Asia to take an upstream, evidence-based, and non-drug approach to optimize cognitive performance, build emotional resilience, and promote mental well-being. Fully dependent on donations and grants, we are grateful for your gift and support as we strive towards improving health outcomes now and the future. Hippocrates over 2,500 years ago emphasized a holistic approach to heal whole human beings, mind, body, and spirit. In this time of crisis and isolation, art provides opportunities to express ourselves to help us make sense of the complex world around us. Expression is the opposite of depression. Art nurtures the spirit and calms the mind. This afternoon, we will travel with Professor Phu Kyong Tat as he shares his personal stories on the art of emotional balance and Associate Professor Rati Mahendran on the science of art therapy. This will be followed by a panel discussion on choral singing is good for mental health. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A function. It is now my pleasure to introduce the chairperson of the webinar, Professor Kwa Ee Hyok. Professor Kwa is the Tan Giok Im Professor in Psychiatry and Neuroscience and Senior Consultant Psychiatrist at the Department of Psychological Medicine, Yong Loo School of Medicine, NUS. Advisor of the Mind Science Center, he is also the Emeritus Consultant at National University Hospital and Consultant at Mind Care Clinic, Farrer Park Medical Center. Professor Kwa, please.
Thank you, May. It is a beautiful Sunday afternoon here in Singapore. It's pretty cool. And I understand there are more than 700, almost 800 viewers today, not only in Singapore, but also as far north as China in Beijing, as far south as in Sydney and Melbourne, around Malaysia, KL, Ipoh, Penang, and across the Pacific, Canada and United States of America. So this is almost like a global webinar. And this, we're in the midst of the pandemic on World Mental Health Day. And we thought that instead of discussing depression and anxiety, we should focus on something more positive mental health, on art and music. And we have an interesting panel of speakers on art and also on choral singing. The first speaker is Professor Phu Kyung Tak, who will deliver the fourth Tiang Seng Distinguished Lecture. Someone texted me early this morning and asked me, who is Tiang Seng? Tiang Seng was from the pioneer generation. He came from Hainan Island in China and worked here, part of the British Merchant Navy. He worked with tenacity and grit, and he is a profile in resilience. And we are very glad and indebted to his son, the Tao Hing Tan, who has given generously to the Mind Science Center. The first Tiang Seng Distinguished Lecture was Professor Norman Sartorius, the former Director of Mental Health at the World Health Organization at Geneva. The second was Professor Hong Hai, the former Dean of the Business School at NTU. The third was last year was Maestro Jeremy Montero. And today we are very glad to have Professor Phu Kyung Tak. He is very well known in Singapore, professor in urological surgery, born in Penang, trained in medicine here in Singapore, and then went back to KL for his training in surgery in University Hospital in KL. And now he's done very well here in Singapore, training generations of surgeons. Something very interesting about him, I discovered only about 10 years ago, his interest in art and also in mindfulness meditation. And every year he'll send to a few of his friends a calendar, and every month there's an interesting painting done by him. And we have asked him to deliver this special lecture on the art of emotional balance. So, Prof. Phu, please.
It's my honor to deliver the fourth Tiang Seng lecture. And we are grateful to his family for the donation so that we can have the present moment to be at peace, and especially in this time of COVID-19. I have nothing to declare except that I am a Hakka. Next slide. From the county of Yongting in Fujian. And my ancestor migrated from the north of Yellow River, and they constructed round houses like this in the hilly part of the Fujian and Guangdong province. The coastal area are all inhabited by the local Fujian and Cantonese. And these round houses are like modern day condominium, where the extended family stay together for mutual support. And also, especially at night, to protect themselves from bandits and wild animals. Next. And my great-grandfather again migrated south to Nanyang from this village 100 years ago. And you can see in the distance is my great-grandfather's house. And you notice that at that time, most of the manual work are done by the woman. And the man will go out to look for work and send money home. So my great-grandfather traveled by boat to Indonesia and finally landed up in the southwest corner of Penang Island. Next slide. And I was fortunate and blessed to have a big family in Penang, and we go back there for regular family reunion in Cheng Beng, and we have regular newsletter previously edited by each member of the family. I am in the middle with two elder sisters, three elder brothers, and three younger brothers. And this is a view of the hotel where we used to stay during the reunion period, the Golden Sand Hotel and also the Rasa Sayang here. And in the Golden Sand Hotel, you can see the Kedapik in the background. Next. And then I moved down to Singapore and fortunate to stay in the Greenview Crescent with a nice sunrise in the morning in my neighborhood, and usually do my Tai Chi in the morning. And this is a painting of the sunrise. Next. And also we go to the nearby botanical garden for walks regularly and enjoy the beautiful oriole, as you can see here, with the beautiful song. And here you can see the white swan sailing past in the gentle breeze. Next.
I think we have a...
And also we enjoy walking mindfully in the evolution garden, but too mindful, always with my handphone on hand to catch the birds and the sunlight on all this amazing plant.
Yes, I'll interrupt you for a minute, Professor Fu. Those paintings, there's always a sense of tranquility and serenity, isn't it?
That's
and as
right.
you said correctly, the evolution garden in Botanic Garden is really beautiful.
Yes.
I have a question from somebody. Her name is Eileen Bygrave. She's a woman from Gopeng, small town north of KL. And she asked a question, did you do all these paintings from your memory or from photographs, or do you carry your paint and your canvas everywhere you go around in your travels?
Previously, I used to have painting done on the spot. But nowadays, I use my camera, and video especially is useful. You can always stop it at any time, and you can combine the various scenes you see into the painting. You don't have to copy exactly what is shown in the picture, but you can make your composition and make it more lively and more peaceful. Yeah.
From the mental health perspective, Professor Fu, I noticed that even in your past calendars, you always include a picture of Penang. Is there something about the spiritual link that you have in Penang that helps in your life? There's something about the early bonding with your parents that you give you a sense of confidence in life. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. Previously, my painting used to be empty of any person. And one day, one of my patients told me that, you should put somebody in to represent that he appreciates the surrounding. And so from then on, I always put a figure there. And also in Chinese painting, actually, you see Professor Tan Ek Kun, his painting, big landscape, but always a tiny little figure there to represent the man and to be mindful. Yeah.
So for the mental health aspect of it, I think it's important to emphasize that early childhood development is important, the foundation of a person's psychological development. So you see Professor Fu is a very confident person and self-assured, and so I think something for us to think about for people viewing, that is important, the family itself and or the children or even the grandchildren, to make sure that the child development, that there's a bonding within the family. You want to press on to the next few paintings?
I agree that relationship is the most important. 家和万事兴, especially family relationship with your friends and your other people around. Yeah, next. And yeah, so in the next 10 minutes, I'll try to concentrate on emotion, the art of emotional balance. As you can see in this calligraphy, 情可治病，也可治病. Just a different tone. It means different thing. That emotion can cause illness, but emotion can also cure illness. So we need to be balanced. Not too much, not too little. Too much, you may cause problem. Next slide. And to be balanced in our Eastern philosophy is the yin and yang symbol, not just strict balance. Because the fulcrum is not always in the middle, as you can see. The fulcrum changes. And also this reminds us that nothing is static. You can see in this painting that the yin and yang symbol is revolving. Like the weathermen always say that there is a 50% chance of rain or 70% chance of rain. And he's always right. Yeah. If it rains, he's right. If it doesn't rain, he's also right. But we need to remember that the weather forecast is still important, because I just learned from one of the lecturer in I Ching that we must always be prepared. That even there is good sunshine, you must always bring your umbrella. Be prepared. Next. And that more is not better. Less is more. And more may bring more problem. And in this picture of the Singapore clock tower, it again reminds us that don't delay too long. 时不我待, that means time wait for no man. So you must think before you take action. But don't think for too long. Be balanced. Next. And that, as you see in the earlier slide, that no man is perfect. And therefore, we need to be tolerant. And we need to collaborate with each other, even if different, as long as our common commitment, common value is the same. So, 小人同而不和，君子不同而和 means a gentleman can collaborate with others with different opinions or culture for common good. Small-minded person would fight each other even though they are of the same group. Next. And nature is the best healer. And the clinician role is to assist nature to heal. If we do too much, it may cause more harm. One example is that for patients with cancer, too much chemotherapy sometimes may make the patient worse, and they may die from the chemotherapy rather than the disease itself. And so this is some of my neolistic art which I created out from our OT tower, that you need to be tranquil, be free in the nature, and enjoy Shangri-La. Next. And that we must always remember our core purpose. Go forward with courage, spread our wings and fly high. And see from the neolistic art to a Chinese ink Beijing. 不忘初心，勇往慢进，整次飞翔. Next. So, to improve our immune system, we need to have regular exercise. And the best is still relaxation exercise, which you can do anywhere, whether in Singapore or in New Zealand here, at Lake Taipo or in Guangzhou. Every morning, I go for a walk, enjoy the group doing the Tai Chi. Next.
Yes, I think I pause for a minute here.
Yeah.
There's a question for you. I know it's wonderful that besides painting and meditation, you also do exercise. Very holistic. Now, the question someone asked you is, does mindfulness improve creativity? That being doing all the mindfulness meditation, you begin to realize that you become a bit more creative in your paintings.
I think it does, especially now that I read more about the I Ching, about the Tao Te Ching, the teaching of Lao Tzu, and that it gives me ideas of what Lao Tzu say and understand it better, and I try to put it in my painting. As you can see, my latest, which is not here, I have sent to some of my friends to enjoy, that.
You realize that also in your paintings, a lot of calligraphy, which itself is an art. So we have ongoing research now at Jurong Point on Chinese brush painting and calligraphy. It is led by Dr. Ji Jian, and I'm sure in a year's time the results will be ready and we can share with everyone around. So you want to press on,
That
Prof?
would be good, yeah. So how do we manage stress? It's important to be contented. 知足常乐 is a phrase from Lao Tzu. And this painting is a painting of the cicada, but in Chinese it's called 知了 also, and that means I know. So you need to forgive and do good and accept and adapt and find time to relax. Next. With flute playing, and this was in Naida in India, and serenading by the fish pond. Next. And that in our attitude to fellow being, things or events, there should be no hatred, complaint, or regrets. Be compassionate, be good, and do good. 对人对事对物无恨无怨无悔，存善念，说好话，做好事。Next. And so, enjoy nature, go with the flow, and you will find peace. And that is happiness. And that is 顺应天时，随遇而安。And I would like to end with this phrase. Go with the flow, accept and adapt. Rain or shine, please be thine. Thank you.
Prof. Fu, thanks. There was somebody asking where do you store all your paintings, and well, I think you have your calendar, but not many people know about it. So where can they view all your collection? Maybe you put it in a May lab one day.
Yeah, I have a small room where I keep some of my good ones, which I frame up. But other pieces, just kept in a file. Watercolor painting is good, is better than oil painting in that. Oil painting is difficult to keep. Whereas watercolor painting, you can just buy a big file and put it there. And when the time comes, if you want to have an exhibition, you can scroll them, some of them, or you can frame them up in there.
Interesting question here for you. Someone said you are very pleasant, very amiable person. Do you ever get angry? And what do you do when you get angry?
When I get angry, you have to ask my wife. Well, I just keep quiet. I think I just keep quiet. I don't blow up.
Well, when we were students, we always perceived as surgeons as people who are strict and stern.
Yeah.
And the psychiatrist by nature more patient, more empathetic. I suppose, Prof. Fu, if you're tired of being a surgeon, you can pick up psychiatry. I'm sure you'd be a good psychiatrist. You're a good listener.
Yeah, that would be a good second career, I think. After I retire from surgery, I'll apply to your psycho medicine.
So we are very glad that he, in a way, she is the epitome of the art of emotional balance.
Yes.
We see a single case of someone who practices mindfulness meditation and art. So that's a single case study. In our research in the Mind Science Center, we want to go for a bigger, we call it quantitative study. So Prof. Fu's single case study is maybe equivalent to a qualitative study. So we now shift gear. Now I move on to Professor Rati Mahindran, who will speak on the big study we have here in Mind Science Center. It is probably one of the first studies in the world. Professor Mahindran is a very distinguished professor of psychiatry, a wonderful researcher, clinician, and also a teacher. She was formerly the medical director of the Chairman Medical Board of IMH. So, Professor Mahindran, is all yours now.
So I'd like to thank Prof. Kwa for his introduction and, of course, the invitation to present our research that we have done. And good afternoon, everyone. So can we move to the next slide, please? So let's start by understanding a little about how the arts are defined. It is described as modes of expression that use skill or imagination in the creation of aesthetic objects, environments, or experiences that can be shared with others. Next slide, please. So there are various categories of art. The area that we are going to talk about today is the visual arts, and that involves painting, drawing, sculpture, and so on. But literature is also included under arts, graphic arts, design, plastic art, sculpture, and modeling. Next slide. Decorative arts, things like enamel work, furniture design, mosaic work, performing arts, like theater, dance, music as composition, and I think later on we will be hearing some of this, and even architecture, which includes interior design. So these are the very many categories of art, not just a single area. Next slide. So we do know that art is an integral part of being human. If we view art, or if we do an art piece, a drawing, coloring, whatever, we do know that we can experience pleasure. We do know that it enhances the brain function. It makes you feel good. Your mood can be lifted. So there's a lot of information on these kind of things about what art does for each individual person. But art therapy is slightly different. It takes place in the context of a therapeutic relationship with a trained therapist. And that's the area that we are keen to investigate further. The interest in art and using it for cognition, for daily life and things like that really began intensely about 2 decades ago. Various researchers have had made attempts really to look at how art can improve individuals not only in the area of dementia, where changes have already occurred, but most significantly in a pre-dementia stage referred to as mild cognitive impairment. Now, individuals with mild cognitive impairment are not impaired in their functioning. The only problem is there may be an area or two where they have difficulties when they are tested objectively. So areas such as, say, memory, attention, concentration. So in these domains, they may have difficulty, but it has not impacted their functioning. So that's an important point to remember. But our reasons for being cautious or being concerned when MCI or mild cognitive impairment has set in is because it can very quickly progress on to dementia. We also know at present there's very little in terms of medication that you can use for MCI. So in fact, there's no medication available. However, research has shown that interventions, right, in terms of cognitive stimulating activities, psychosocial activities, these can slow down the decline in cognition for those with MCI. It can also reverse whatever impairments that occur. So that's an important point. And that's why at the Mind Science Center, we have been focusing on investigating various interventions that we hope can help this group of individuals. And whatever earlier studies that have been done on art therapy, when we looked at them, right, when we planned this new study that we were going to do, we found that many of the older studies lacked a lot of problems. They had a lot of problems in terms of the study design, in the way the findings were analyzed. So there were a lot of difficulties, but nonetheless, we learned from those mistakes before we went on to plan our study. Next slide, please. So this is the study that we did. It was a art therapy. It involved older adults with mild cognitive impairment and those aged above 60. So eventually we managed to recruit 68 individuals, and they were between 60 and 85 years of age. We had 3 arms in this study. It was not only art therapy, which was guided viewing of art pieces and production of artwork, but we also had a comparator group to compare changes and improvements in the art therapy group. Our comparator group were involved in music reminiscence activity. So for them, they listened to music, they recalled memories related to the music, and that's what they did in their intervention. And we also had a third arm. The third arm was the control arm, where no intervention was offered to them. They just continued with their daily life and routine. Now, what's important about this study also was that we had trained therapists to deliver the program. They were experts in art therapy. They were also trained in music reminiscence activity, and they delivered this program over 9 months. For the first 3 months, we ran the study weekly, once a week, and then subsequent 6 months, we ran the program fortnightly. And we did regular tests on them at baseline, at 3 months, and at 6 months. What was the area of focus when we started this research? We wanted to look at both biological as well as social factors. And to do this, we looked at cognition, right? In terms of memory, attention, visual-spatial abilities. So we did cognitive tests. We looked at psychological well-being. So we administered tests of mood and anxiety. We were also keen to look at biological markers. And in this particular study, we looked at telomere lengths, which is a reflection of cellular aging. And importantly, I mean, very few studies have done this. We looked at neuroimaging. We did MRI scans for our subjects. So can we move on to the next slide? So what were the study findings? Firstly, in terms of the cognition of individuals who participated in this 9-month program, even at 3 months, we found that there were improvements in memory, right? And this was sustained even at the end of the study when we actually reduced the frequency of the interventions to fortnightly. Even then, right, the whatever gains that were made at 3 months were sustained. For those who had subsyndromal symptoms, that means they did report that I'm a little bit anxious, my mood is sometimes down, nothing amounting to a major depression or anxiety, but subsyndromal symptoms. Even for these symptoms, we saw an improvement at 3 months and 9 months. And importantly, telomere lengths were increased at 9 months. So let me just stop here and explain a little bit about telomeres. Telomeres are really the genetic material at the ends of chromosomes within cells of our body. Now, they have a very important function. They stop the chromosome from unraveling, right? So to have them at the tips is a protective factor, which is very important for every chromosome and every cell in the body. Unfortunately, as we age or we have very many chronic medical problems, or even in cancers, the telomeres can shorten. And when the telomeres shorten, that can cause an unraveling of the chromosomes, and the cells, of course, can die as a result. So telomeres are very important, and we wanted to know whether by being involved in a psychosocial intervention like art therapy, whether that had any impact on the telomeres. And surprisingly, we did manage to show that amongst our patients in the study, telomere lengths were increased by 9 months at the end of the study. Next slide. So these are just showing you the scores that the subjects had. So even with music reminiscence activity, and that is the lines in orange, we saw improvements. And the green, of course, is for art therapy. And you see that there's significant improvement in the scores for individuals who participated in this study. Next slide. This compares the telomere lengths, again, improvements with music reminiscence activity, but markedly significant for those in art therapy. Next slide, please. All right, let's focus a little bit about neuroimaging findings. We did MRIs for our subjects at baseline, at 3 months, and at 9 months. What we found was that there was an increase in cortical thickness. And that's an important finding because we do know as we age, cortical thickness, there can be shrinkage and cortical thickness can be reduced. But here, after being involved in these art therapy programs, the cortical thickness did increase. And this increase was noticed in a particular area of the brain, in the right frontal gyrus. Now, the frontal lobe is an important part of the brain. This is where executive functioning, or what we call the higher order skills, the decision making, the planning, those kind of skills reside in the frontal lobe. And so it was really heartening to know that that was the particular area in which the changes occurred. There was increase in the cortical thickness in this particular area. Now, we do believe that the findings that we saw here are really due to something known as neuroplasticity. Now, neuroplasticity actually refers to two things. We do know that the brain, right, if the underlying brain is still healthy, the individual is in good health, regeneration is possible. We also know that even despite age, if there is activity going on, psychosocial activity, we do know also that there can be increased connectivity among lobes of the brain. So we do believe that it is these two things that contributed to the changes that we saw in the neuroimaging, at least the positive changes. Next slide. Okay, and finally, of course, what were the psychological factors that we saw? Definitely, we saw the improvement in mood, in well-being, and quality of life. And we believe there were two important components to our art therapy that contributed to our findings. Now, here you see two pictures. On the left, we see subjects who were involved in creating art pieces. Now, not only did they create art pieces, but they were also encouraged to talk about what they had produced and why it was important and so on. And the other painting, you see the subjects who also had the opportunity. They went on visits to the National Gallery and as well as the NUS Museum. And there they were accompanied by staff who were trained to help them view the paintings and evaluate the paintings. So there were two components to the program that we delivered: art as therapy and art psychotherapy. And we believe these, again, were the important things that we did to produce the kind of results that we found. Last slide. So to conclude, art entails rigorous cognitive involvement, right? And we can potentially gain cognitive gains. And these are really the result of brain changes. And also we think possibly chromosomal changes. The latter is an area that needs further study, but definitely the findings that we have shown in the brain are things that other researchers are also showing. And we do know that in our studies on mindfulness practice as well, we have seen these kind of changes. Thank you, and I'll end there.
Thank you, Professor Mahendran. This is probably the first study in the world using telomeres and MRI in art therapy. I must say something. The idea of a research on art therapy is in fact the brainchild of our ambassador at large, Professor Tommy Koh. Some 10 years ago, he sent me an email and asked me, are you keen to do something on art therapy for dementia patients? He said, because there's a report from the New York Times that they're doing a study at the Museum of Modern Art in New York on patients with dementia. So I told Professor Tommy Koh that we don't want to copy what Americans are doing. And it's often happened here. People follow what the British are doing, what the Japanese are doing. We want to do something innovative. We want to do something to prevent dementia, not those who have dementia. I've been to the Museum of Modern Art in New York, and I see that they have patients down there with dementia, and they show them paintings of Pablo Picasso. So here we do the viewing at the NUS Art Museum and also the National Art Gallery. So we are very thankful to NAG for help assisting us in that. But here as you've seen the painting shown by Professor Mahendran, there are local painters about the Singapore River, kampong scene that people are more familiar with. We didn't show them a picture of Picasso's paintings, and no one would appreciate that kind of paintings, but something more local. And the other person who helped us a lot is Mr. Wong Lit Sun, who is also a very trained art therapist from London. And so it's marvelous, this study. I'm very glad that it's finished. And Professor Tommy Koh and Mr. Xia Fu Hua, the chairman of the National Art Gallery, are all very, very glad. I don't know whether this question is appropriate for Professor Mahendran. It's more a question for Minister of Education, but I'm sure Professor Mahendran has that ministerial quality, the caliber. So this question is for you also. So the question is, why not because art, as you heard from Professor Fu, stir up creativity, that instead of focusing on just science and maths, that we should focus also on art. Even in upper primary, secondary school, in university, there's a question here from Dr. Gay Ming, asked a question, why not in a university that we do something on that? So Rati, you can stand in for the minister and tell us, what do you think of that?
How I wish. Okay. Sorry, am I unmuted? Yes, how I wish, Prof. But I'll try. But I do know in primary schools, art is still part of the curriculum. I'm not so sure about secondary schools, whether they still continue. Probably if there are teachers in the audience, they can advise. And I suppose as one progresses in the educational ladder, it doesn't become compulsory. Art doesn't become compulsory. A lot of it is left to the individual, particularly those who are interested. They could go on to pursue it. But definitely at primary school level, I do know it is part of the curriculum. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. You'll be hearing more from in future years from Professor Mahindran. She's heading the big study on aging in place, aging in place study, and coming up soon, and it will give us more interesting data and what's wonderful some scientific data. And so now I will hand it over to May to section 2. Right.
Thank you, Professor Kwa and Associate Professor Mahindran, for the scientific evidence that prove art enhances brain functions and well-being. While we are not able to congregate with friends and families as we usually would as we live through this pandemic, a few of us got together at Botanic Garden to make a music video to bring a message of gratitude and love. It is now my pleasure to invite Mrs. Teo Poh Yim, patron of the Mind Science Center, to give a short speech and launch the music video. Mrs. Teo, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, May. To commemorate World Mental Health Day, NUS Mind Science Center, together with Voices of Singapore and performers of NAMA, will present a medley of songs, curated and inspired by a musician who rediscovered blue skies again, with the touching lyrics by Professor Koh. These songs convey a spirit of resilience during tough times and to find joy in everything around us. Besides having physical well-being, there is a need to take care of our mental well-being to be truly having a life. I now launch the medley of songs.
When I see white clouds in the blue sky and the roses in the garden, there was a time I still remember when we were happy and so free.
When I hear the bells in the morning and the sound of children's laughter, there was a time I still remember when we played and sang all day.
Sing a song, sing out loud, sing out strong.
Sing of good things, not bad. Sing of happy, not sad. Sing a song. Make it simple to last your whole life long.
Don't worry that it's not good enough for anyone else to
Thank you very much, Mrs. Teo, for launching the video, and thank all the singers, Voice of Singapore. The first song is called There Was a Time, and it was composed by a musician, a local musician, after he recovered from depression, and he gave it as a gift to his psychiatrist. There is a parallel to this. 100 years ago, the famous Russian composer Rachmaninoff suffered from depression. And after he recovered, with the help of a Russian psychiatrist, he composed a famous piano concerto number 2. And in fact, he dedicated that song, that piece, the concerto, to his psychiatrist. So in psychiatry, we sometimes are glad that our patients thank us for a piece of music composition. For this panel, we have 3 speakers. The first one is Dr. Singh, the leader of the Nama Singers we just heard. Second is Professor Maureen Sarkok, a previous professor of obstetrics and gynecology. But in fact, as I was talking, someone texted me and said, can you say hello to Dr. Maureen Sarkok, because she delivered my son 30 years ago or 35 years ago. And the third speaker is Mr. Darius Lim, or Maestro Darius Lim, who will be finishing his PhD in a few months' time. Will be Dr. Darius Lim. So I shall begin with asking Dr. Ling first. Who are these Nama singers?
Thank you, Prof. Kwa, and hello, everyone. Who are the Nama singers? They are actually 16 individuals from the original walking group that used to walk in the botanic gardens in the rainforest every Saturday morning until we were struck by the COVID pandemic. So we formed a virtual choir then and sang a song to thank the frontliners. Then when the World Mental Health Day was coming up, Prof. Kwa asked me to form a choir from these Namasians. Now, Namasians are people who can give talks and lectures with aplomb. They can even teach you how to invest in gold and silver. They can actually talk about the vaccines, the COVID vaccines, the intricate details of that, and know a lot about art and literature. But most of them would not claim to be singers. So I had the difficult task of persuading and cajoling them, and I managed to get 16 of them. And they came, and after learning how to sing the song, we all had to sing in the sound studio for recording, and we had to sing solo. And that's not easy, especially for people who have never or have hardly sung before. But they did it with courage and conviction, and I think even enjoyed it. So I would like to thank the Namasians for singing the song.
So thank you, Dr. Ling. I think so for World Mental Health Day is to, like all of them, some of them are very senior civil servants, and they overcome their fear, overcome the anxiety of singing, and to be led by Mr. Darius Lim. It was quite intimidating, they say, to be under Darius Lim, so that's the latest. You say this is the latest choir we have in Singapore. I know in Singapore, we sometimes like to be the best teacher, best school, or best baker. I'm sure you agree with me, Dr. Ling, that they are not the best choirs, not even the second best in it.
We wouldn't dare to claim.
Right. Probably their claim to fame would be they are the latest choir in Singapore. That would be quite enough, But the research on choral singing is started, and is marvelous research done And we've done a brain scan. The PI of this study is Dr. Feng Lei, who is listening in. The other people involved is Professor Bernard Lansky, who is now in Queensland, Brisbane. And they also did brain scanning before and after. Now, the brainchild, the person who thought about this program is, in fact, this idea, in fact, Dr. Maureen Sarkok. So, Maureen, tell us exactly how did it come about, this idea?
Why singing was something I've left behind in childhood. While I started choral singing, it's quite a long story. I'd have to get you to read my book for the whole tale. An episode of amnesia made me question my future mental health. Chance mention at a medical conference on aging led me to explore choral singing, and that changed my whole life. Relearning, remembering how to sing helped me to remember. The more I sang, the more memories came flooding back. I could feel the difference in myself, my mental agility improving. Like coming out of a cocoon to another world from my medical crowd, I was able to make new friends in my choir group. I was discovering choral singing on myself, my physical well-being getting better, and my mental well-being too. Might it work for others too? And sometimes things just happen at the right time, don't they? My own experience brought me to the hypothesis, which I have been working on ever since. Can choral singing prevent dementia? Can we really sing to remember once we have remembered how to sing? In 2010, as NUSS choir convener, I was tasked to raise funds for a cause at our annual concert. What better cause than research into choral singing to prevent dementia? It presented the perfect purpose. In those times, prevention of dementia was not much mentioned. I had to convince and interest the Department of Psychological Medicine at the university and the choral music director about my hypothesis and the idea of putting a research project together. Those two things eventually intertwined: the idea for the research project and the means to raise funds to pay for it.
Oh, okay. Darius, you have been involved in so many choirs, and you notice that even in the Nama singers, it improves social connectedness in it. So in school itself, tell me how's experience and how people get together and work together.
Hi, Prof. Thank you for having me. I think first and foremost, I just want to say that it's been a very special experience and a very unique experience with everyone. And embarking on this project has been truly special because I think it's the first time actually we also sing and sang in a rainforest and walked in the rainforest and experienced that very special connection, which now we are very happy to and also greatly advocate. I think right now, it's always been choral singing in schools has always been something that people sing together. But the problem in Singapore, I feel, is that singing is thought as an art form that only professionals or people who can sing should attempt, and that is something I feel that is a misconception that can be changed, because songs are actually able to capture something that goes beyond what we would normally be able to articulate in our normal, rational, logical minds. It is you wouldn't say "Let It Go" to yourself, but you would sing the song "Let It Go" from Frozen, and it's something that is so special because, finding that instrument within your body is a very special connection that is different than playing the piano or doing a sport. Because there is this purpose of working towards something, especially when it's singing with people. There is this purpose of working towards something together, using an instrument that is inside your body. So this focus, the social connection and communication, we have seen so much change, not just in Nama's choir, but also in the many choirs that we teach in Voices of Singapore. We do have professional choirs as well as community groups who are totally non-auditioned, and we have seen people who are skeptical of even opening their mouths, and just, telling us that, I cannot sing and I sound terrible and things like that. But at the end of the day, it's not really about, like what you said, it's not really about how to be the best singer in the world. It's how to be the best versions of ourselves. And through finding our voices and bettering our technique, the voice is something that we can never escape from. So, in learning good techniques on singing actually helps us to be more confident individuals. It is something that we hold so dearly and we hold so dearly to ourselves. So, there's a lot of transformation in the community choirs that we see, that we train. Through finding good voice training, this key skill in learning singing is actually not just the singing itself, it's actually controlling the rate of your breathing, because it activates parts of the brain that are actually directly linked to emotion. So if you take a deep breath in singing, it's very different than speaking the normal sentences. So when your mood is up, obviously it will automatically strengthen your immune system and you respond to stress factors better in a more positive way. And also it also starts to enhance sleeping patterns lah. I think for the adult choirs especially, just to go back to the Nama's experience, when we first sang, I think positivity and riding on that positivity and encouragement to help people find their voices through the singing experience in a group is an extremely important process of group singing. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you very much. You raised a point about the immune system. Listening in is somebody far away in Ipoh. He used to a researcher with us, and Mr. Dr. Ng King Siang, and he'll be interested to know about how choral singing can improve our immune system. He's into biomarkers. But 2 points you raised, Darius, is about coming together. Now, especially now in the pandemic now, so much of social isolation, and we see in our clinics more patients now with not just pandemic fatigue or blues, but also depression. So this is something that'll be wonderful, but also students who often lack social skills and the lack of confidence, so this kind of singing may be helpful, So for example, even the Nama singers, they've come together, they become more confident now. They even want to have their own blog, So one of the leaders of the blog is Dr. Ling. Tell us about this blog and how can it help people with mental health problems?
Okay, this blog was launched on the 1st of October, just 10 days ago. And we have already about 40 articles written on the blog. The blog is for everyone, but is targeted specifically at those who have retired or are planning to retire. And this is to help them to age well every day with the joys of living. I would encourage all who are watching this webinar to log into agewelleveryday.org, and that will bring you straight to the blog, and you can read the articles there. And if you enjoy them, please share them with your friends and family. Thank you.
So that's wonderful. You see, after singing, it lifts up their morale. They're less anxious. They even start a blog to talk to people, But also, it's very important to write about our experience. That's why the research paper published by Professor Mahindran is so important, to tell people, hey, we are doing such thing, that the frontiers of research, and something helpful for people, And Maureen is going to share with us her experience, and then she's written a book, by the way. It's called On Purpose, and Maureen will share with us very quickly. By the way, Maureen, this patient or this person called John Silver corrected me and said the son is not 30 years old but 29, and the son is watching the program now. All right.
What my book is about is purpose on resilience. I think singing like yoga and qigong and releases qi from the dantian, the center of our femininity and masculinity, pelvic health through solar plexus. Singing brings all that to life. It awakens in us, in our body and mind and spirit. I'm convinced that we are not just seeing psychological effects. What's going on in us is when we sing is physical, observable, and measurable too. The more I sing, the more I feel as if I'm in touch with something that is just as fundamental. I have tried to pull the strands of my thought together and find a simple way to capture what I believe is in the heart of choral singing experience. You can call it my theory. My theory is expressed as MC squared. E is the chi energy of universal love. M is music, the song we are singing. And C is the choir, the community of singers. The total chi energy stimulating, regenerating the brain, multiplied by all the choristers' voices. During these COVID times, where distancing is key, indeed, I experience mental and mood deterioration as predicted by the RCT results. Without the power of the choir, the mind and mood is down, the brain not energized, the DNA not healing. Indeed, I discovered the responsorial distant singing as practiced in the Hakka songs. Singing through the eyes, through the nose, the ear, the head, the chest. And that heals the mind, calms the mood, stimulates the senses, invigorating, passionate, and life-giving indeed. When we combine the song, the choir, and we factor the music and the community, the sum is equal to the energy that lights up life, the life that flows in me, in you, and in the universe. The book is about training for resilience.
Okay, thank you, Maureen. There's a question for Darius also. Where can they get the piece of the video? Is it on your site or is it with Catherine who is doing it?
I think the link is on the chat box already. Catherine, if you could
Okay.
repost that again. We have some questions about the choral singing as well.
Yes. The next question is it free? Now, listening in is the director of the Mind Science Center, Professor John Wong. And John is possibly the last socialist in Singapore. He would want it to be free. So it's a gift from the Mind Science Center to the world, especially those who are struggling with mental health problems. You know, and we also like to dedicate this song to our staff, those who are in the frontliners, especially in the mental health field, our staff at the neuroscience clinic and NUH, and also those in the University Health Center, and of course the Mind Care Clinic at Farrer Park. And so it will be free, and I think you have to wait for 1 or 2 more days until Catherine, who is in charge, Catherine Lee, will load it up in the website of the Mind Science Center. So now we have Q&A for the whole group now. Now, Alistair, you can bring in Professor Fu and Professor Mahindran. I've got a question once again from Dr. Gay Ming, and she said that have you combined all this together in for studies or for in the community, Professor Mahindran? Is there, or you tell them about your AWE study, which in fact is a combination of not only art, music, but also mindfulness and exercise. Can you tell the audience the AWE program?
Okay, so I think an important aspect of research that we do in the Mind Science Center is not only to evaluate psychosocial interventions and activities, but the other important component is that we should be able to translate this to benefit the larger community. And this is in the Age Well Everyday program that we have run for the last few years, and it's run at a few community centers. And so a lot of the interventions that we investigated before, starting with mindfulness activity, music reminiscence activity, horticulture activity, art therapy, of course, all these have been packaged in a easily deliverable form so that individuals in the community can learn and benefit from these programs. And so it's an important program. And of course, what we really need to run this, as you can imagine, is a big challenge. We do need volunteers. So that's something we hope we can gain from people listening in. I suppose one way to find out more about this is to actually go to our Mind Science Center website, where all these programs are mentioned and discussed. And I think there'll be numbers there and who to contact for more details and for more information. I hope that answers things, Prof.
Yes, I think the Age Well Everyday program, or all program, is the first program in Asia for dementia prevention. But we're not preventing all the dementias. Every year we have 2,500 new cases. If you can prevent just 10%, it'd be 250 cases. And you're wonderful if it's your family members or yourself, There's a question also for Professor Fu. She said, the surgeons often, when they operate, they have music in the background. Do they sometimes sing? Do you sing when you operate? I see Maureen's shaking her head. Yeah.
You can sing silently in your head, but not
We
loud.
actually sing. We sing together with the attendants.
Okay, so besides doing art, you do the singing also. Good.
Now you're not allowed.
No.
Because
Now
of the
we have,
COVID-19.
Yeah.
well, it's always in the masks anyway.
So for Darius, someone asked, where can I learn how to sing? I know VOS has got a wonderful coach, Joyce, and tell us more about people who want to sing. I'm sure you will have more and more people coming to your place now.
Yeah, I would like to just share a screenshot. Okay, just let me share a slide. Just a very quick introduction on Voices of Singapore for those who are new to it. We are actually a charity organization, and we have many singing groups, 20 singing groups in fact. So we have community singing groups, and we also have audition singing groups, non-audition singing groups, as well as a special needs choir. And we have a festival as well, and this is the sing along program that is free for all to come to join. It's called Sing with Joys. Of course, this one has passed already, but it's actually on the first and the third Monday evenings online, so anyone can join this. And we have other singing groups, from ladies choirs to men's choruses and community groups. You might have recognized some of our projects like the Singapore Virtual Choir singing Home during the pandemic last year. And so we do have many, and we actually based in Capitol Theatre currently. So for those, to answer your question on singing programs, if you want to try out singing programs online, there are free singing programs online that you can sign up for. I'm going to drop the link on the chat box. You can basically visit voicesofsingapore.com to join any of the singing programs there. And some of them are free, some of them are paid, but they're not expensive. They're about $10 to sing. But the sing along sessions online happening on the first and third Mondays are absolutely free of charge. So if you're a bit more serious, you may want to join the Voices of Singapore Community Chorus that actually runs every week for 10 weeks each season. And so you join for 10 weeks by 10 weeks, and it's a great group where we sing together. There's about 120 people, but we sing in groups of 20 given the current safe distancing. So Dr. Sin Ling is actually a singer there. You want to share anything? Yeah. Thank you.
So I know a doctor spoke to me last week. He was a bit tired and he was a bit tense, and I told him he probably had pandemic fatigue. And we need to listen to music or to sing. So I said, "Don't worry if it's not good enough for anyone else to hear. Just sing." Now we realize that the program in the Mind Science Center is for prevention, because once someone has dementia or someone has depression, it's take a long time to get them out of it, and so for the dementia is more difficult. So these are preventive programs, and so it's upstream work, So I look after some students, and I see that it's all depression. So I often ask the deans, what can we do upstream? Can we prevent? As the point raised by Dr. Gaming again, whether can you include music and art, all this in the curriculum, but make sure there's no exams involved, and just people enjoy, with type of exams, But one very important point is whether all this can build up self-confidence in the people, which I think is very, very important. What do you think, Sing Ling, about Dr. Ling, about singing, build up confidence? And I would ask Professor Mahindran also. Yeah.
Well, it definitely does. So I appear to be very thick-skinned. Whenever I need to, I'll sing a solo in front of the church, whatever. I don't feel shy at all. Whereas if you ask me to do public speaking, I'd rather refrain.
Yeah.
I don't have problems with singing.
Mr. Mahindran, building up confidence.
I'm sure it does, but at the start it's always difficult. I suppose once you get over the first time and then you begin to enjoy it, then that overcomes all the anxiety associated with this sort of performance. Yep, and in the long run, it becomes enjoyable, and you forget about the lack of confidence.
That's right. Yes, I think because someone was saying that whether the doctors are confident enough, because they said, well, we often invite people from America and the UK to talk about longevity. I said, look here, the life expectancy in Singapore is better than North America or England. The life expectancy in Singapore is 84. In London, England is about 79. America is 77. So a friend from Australia said, you people should be going to England or America to talk about. But people say, well, low self-esteem, with no confidence. Maureen, what do you think of that, Maureen?
No, I think it's if we have an original thought, we can promote it, and the point is to be convinced about it, to have a purpose. Just like the mountain singing at the moment, it's a very old tradition of singing from the mountains, and it's like echo singing. And with this distancing, I have been exploring it and find that really it does help you, your mood. You sing from the dantian, from the feminine and masculine center, and you send the voice to the brain to stimulate the senses, and you become quite sane after that.
Okay, I think time is catching up. Time is premium in any kind of webinar, and I want to conclude. I want to thank all the speakers, Professor Kiang Tak, Professor Mahindran, Professor Maureen Sakop, Dr. Sing Ling, Maestro Darius Lim. I must also thank the people who have worked so hard. Although the webinar in just 1 hour, 15 minutes or so. It's taken May and Catherine more than 4 months to prepare this. And also, of course, we thank also Mr. Tao Heng Tan, and our very generous and very good friend, So back to you again, May.
Thank you. Not all poems are written with words. Not all melodies are written in notes. Humming is another way to open the voice for healing. Everyone has a song, everyone has a tune. What's yours? There are more than 3,500 academic studies published on the health benefits of the arts. The brainchild of our founding chairman, the late Mr. Wee Sin Toh, Mind Science Centre's Mind Art Experiential Lab, or MAYLab, is an innovative space where we bring together the brain science as well as the creative arts to investigate meaningful insights to promote mental well-being, enhance cognitive functions, and improve quality of mind across all ages. Located at Alexandra Hospital, we hope that MAYLab can be an enriching space and a therapeutic environment for the community to bring people together and tap into their own creativity to improve their mental wellness. The inaugural exhibition theme Arts, Mindfulness, and the Aging Brain is curated by senior art therapist Ms. Lu Hui Hui with the chairperson of our Art Science Council, Ms. Linda Neo, and team. It showcases an exciting mix of art-based research, arts in community, and mind-body-space connection. It explores the interface between mental wellness and art and empowers visitors to take ownership of their emotional and cognitive well-being. The curation, available until end of the year, showcases local research evidence on how lifestyle changes one can engage in to mitigate the effects of aging. There are interactive activities for visitors to learn about how they can prevent cognitive decline and improve their brain health through art, mindfulness, and tea drinking. If you'd like to visit us at MAYLab, we have included a link for you to book an appointment. Entry is free and it is by appointment only. There is also a virtual tour, and my colleagues and I are happy to take you through the tour if you prefer this option. Like what you see? Why not volunteer with us? We have included a link for you to sign up. Thank you everyone for attending today's webinar organized by the Mind Science Centre. Once you leave the webinar, you'll receive a survey on the presentation, and we will appreciate if you could give us your feedback. On behalf of Mind Science Centre and our presenters, thank you for joining us today and have a blessed Sunday. Stay well.